first Monday meeting for the month of December to order. I'm going to ask Supervisor Howard, if you will, give us a prayer this morning, if you don't mind.
Sure. Bow your heads, please. This morning, our Heavenly Father, we come thanking you for your many blessings. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this past Thanksgiving. And dear Heavenly Father, we pray that you would just continue to bless us through these holidays. Dear Heavenly Father, at this time of year, we always want to remember our soldiers that's standing abroad for our freedom. Dear Heavenly Father, continue to bless them and continue to bless their families that's back at home. Dear Heavenly Father, we pray that this meeting will go according to the way you would have it to go. We ask for your blessings for leaders on a national level, on a state level, and on a local level. These and other blessings we ask in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Supervisor Howard.
Yes,
we're going to go ahead and we're going to follow our agenda as carefully as we can. Should we have any changes or anything that we need to adjust, we will let you know as we get to them. First item of business will be the approval of the November 2019 board orders. I think those orders were in each board member's package. What's the pleasure of the board on those board orders?
I'm just going to recuse myself because I wasn't here for one of the meetings.
Okay.
I looked at it. I'll make motion for approval.
Got a motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard. Are there any more questions concerning the motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the appropriate voting sign. All those opposed, we have motion passes 4 with one recusal. All right, moving along to the next item, citizen comment period. Are there any citizens here this morning that would like to approach the board for up to 3 minutes? You may come forward and do so at this time. Seeing that there are none, we'll move on to the next item, tax assessment changes. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bowman.
Good morning.
Can I just have some assessment changes?
I looked at these in our package, and this is a question for Rob here. Do I need to recuse myself on that vote right there because of that?
Yes.
You mean to get out of the room?
Just don't. I think you probably vote on it.
Yeah, I don't even know what it's for, but I saw that.
It's too close to you.
Got a motion by Supervisor Miller, is there a second?
This is quite a few of them, but I did have one in particular that because the landowner has contacted me. Albert McGee, is that changing him from class one
From a 2 to a 1.
from a 2 to a 1, so that will lower his taxes. Okay,
And
gotcha.
he'll just need to come in and file hers too, which we've already paid him.
Okay, good deal. All right.
Well, yeah, I have a question about some of these mapping errors. A lot of those, but that's not an increase in taxpayer or anything like that for a mapping error.
It would be a decrease in
A
tax amount, but it's,
Be decrease in tax amount. And I know the 10% treatment, that would be a decrease in tax amount also.
Any more questions? If not, we got a motion, can we get a second?
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Howard. Are there any questions concerning the motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the clerk vote sign. Motion passes 4-0 and 1 recusal. Thank you, Mr. Duran. You have a great day. Moving right along to the next item, Unity Park. Ms. Marzalek, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I wanted to mention to you that I have 3 of my committee members here. I have Evelyn Johnson, Darrell Lala Evans, and Chris Taylor are here in support
Welcome.
of our Unity Park Committee. Anyway, well, first of all, I wanted to thank the Unity Park Committee for funding our committee again for this coming year. We really appreciate your generosity and plan to utilize the funds for further improvements to the Unity Park. But most importantly, I'm here to announce on behalf of the Unity Park Committee the choices we have made for the 2020 Unity Park honorees. We requested the submission of nominations by advertising extensively in the Starkville Daily News and the Starkville Dispatch, through handouts placed around town, emails to churches, the creation of a Unity Park Facebook page, and the appearance of Chris Taylor and myself on WCBI's 5 o'clock news. As a result, we received 6 very worthy nominations, 2 of which were for one person. Our committee met on November 5th, and we selected 2 2020 Unity Park honorees. The first is Dorothy Bishop. Dorothy was a civil rights activist for more than 50 years. She served as a youth advisor for Oktibbeha County's Youth NAACP, was the first female president of the county NAACP, and in 1994 she received the Fannie Lou Hamer Award. She participated in national, state, and local civil rights marches. She worked diligently every election to make sure that people voted and helped drive people to the polls. She organized the Oktibbeha Coalition of Concerned Citizens and, importantly, advocated for a memorial to civil rights leaders after seeing monuments installed at the courthouse honoring Civil War soldiers, but none honoring those who fought for civil rights. Through her persistency, the Unity Park was created. The second is Carol McReynolds Davis. Carol was a member of the first race relations team, excuse me, and was an advocate for a united Martin Luther King Day celebration. When it came to be, she was present for every activity, including the march. However, she is most remembered at those celebrations for her yearly painting that she would first unveil at the Sunday night church service. Some of the subjects of the paintings included Martin Luther King, Dr. Douglas Connor, a Martin Luther King Day March, Ned Gandy, Cool Papa Bell, Reverend Michael Bryan, and even Dorothy Bishop, along with Dorothy Isaac and myself. The person who nominated her said it best. It was through Carol's artwork that she broke down racial barriers. Each of the portraits spoke of bringing value to and equalizing those in our community. These two women will be honored at the Unity Park on Martin Luther King Day, January 20th, 2020. That's my report.
Thank you so
Any
much.
questions?
Sound good?
Okay, great.
Thank you all so much for all your hard work. I know how hard you worked on this today. Thank you so much.
We can get a motion second to acknowledge the report.
Motion for
Motion by
acceptance.
Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Howard. Are there any questions concerning the motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the proper vote. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much for your hard work on that effort. Moving to the next item, Marcy's Law, Mr. Jared Hooper. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Great, how about yourself?
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. Well, my name is Jared Hooper. I am with Marcy's Law for Mississippi. We are a nonpartisan nonprofit, and our goal is to give equal rights to crime victims by putting legislation in the Constitution, on the Bill of Rights specifically, that will give them equal rights with that of the accused. So currently we have crime victims laws in place in the state, but they're all either antiquated, far out of date, or they're practically unenforceable. So Marcy's Law would fix that by making these rights part of the state constitution. It's named after Marcy. She was a young college student who was murdered by her ex-boyfriend, and almost immediately after her funeral, her mother was surprised to find the accused in the store because she wasn't required to be informed that he had posted bail. And that's one of the things that Marcy's Law will do. It will allow the victim or the victim's family, in the case the victim's no longer with us, it will allow them to know when the accused posts bail. It will allow them to have reasonable protection from the accused if they do post bail. They'll be informed and be able to speak, testify at hearings. They'll know what's going to happen throughout the whole judicial process. And they'll also be eligible when applicable for restitution. So what we're doing is, because it has to be on the Bill of Rights for the Constitution of the state, it has to go through the legislature first and pass with a 2/3 vote in both the House and the Senate. We brought it up last session, and it passed the House and failed the Senate by 1 vote. So we're bringing it back up again. This time we're trying to get local support from municipalities, mayors, board of supervisors, counties, sheriffs, that sort of thing, so that we can have a strong showing for the legislature when we bring it back up. And we do believe it will pass this time. But if it does pass, it will go on the ballot in 2020 for everyone to vote on. And so that's another thing that local support helps us as well. So we are asking if you would consider endorsing or signing a proclamation in support of HC 47, Marcy's Law, so that it will just, again, show the legislature and other people that equal rights is something that we still care about in the state. So, again, it's not so much we don't want them to have any more or less than the accused, just equal rights. That's the whole point of Marcy's Law.
would you mind sending me a copy of the legislation?
Yes,
So that,
I have a
if you
copy
got
right
one.
now, actually, too. I also have a copy of I believe I sent all of you a email that had a copy of the legislation too, but I also have
Just, you might not have sent
We
it to
need
you.
to-
Send
a
it to
copy
me.
of the
Look like
of
we
the
need more
original
time to
bill.
study that. I believe, I can't make a good firm conclusion.
So here is the original as it was introduced in the House last time. It will be introduced, we don't know who's going to introduce it this time. Hopefully it will be,
You got a copy of this one?
okay, you
Everybody got
there's a
that.
copy of the
Oh, you-
res-
you need,
same
okay, I'm
process.
sorry.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You give me a chance to look over this. I might be able to explain it to them next time when we come, if that's
Absolutely, yeah.
okay with
Maybe
them.
next board. they'll let
Either
me
way,
know.
I appreciate your time, just taking the time to listen to me. If you have any questions, do you all have my contact information? I'll be happy to come back down, talk to any of you anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for your email.
Thank you, sir. You have a great day. All right, moving on to the next item, road manager report. Mr. Baggett, good morning, sir.
Well, happy December, board.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Morning.
I think everyone has a copy of the road manager report. Any questions, comments?
I have somebody that would like a putting in on Gray Road. Would this be okay time to bring that up?
Gray Road, you have the address?
No, he's bought a piece of property in between. It's just accessing his property. I asked him, I have his name and a contact number.
Okay, motion, what,
It's
state
for
his name?
John Morris, Gray Road, and the phone number's 323-1939. He brought some property from Miss Gray and just needs access to his property right now.
Yeah, I got a motion, is that second? A motion second.
John
Any questions
Morris.
on the motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the public voting sign. Motion passes unanimously.
That is
On
Gray Road.
Gray
Longview
Road,
Edenton Road.
John Morris,
We cut those limbs
323-1939.
back.
323-1939.
You know, we had the
Lots of property
rains
from
and
Miss Gray.
that we had to kind of get off that. Just when they can,
This
go back
piece
over
of
there.
property.
There's still some limbs that are in the ditches right there to
Okay.
get them out. So
Okay.
that's in Sammy's area.
Any more questions?
I sent an email in relation to a covered at the intersection of Williams and Mobley Road. If you would review that and act accordingly, because it's very serious. That area, it has caved in, and it's difficult for individuals to travel over it.
Okay.
Does anybody know why Sanders and Pelham Road flooded this last time? Right after this last rain? Anybody have any idea why?
Probably beavers, it would probably be. If it's different, in other words, the big rain.
Sanders and Pelham both flooded, if you'll,
Okay.
after this last rain, but it was at night. You know, it was later on. I would have thought the water would have been gone by then. So we need to look into that and see why those two roads flooded.
Something's holding up.
Supervisor Williams, did you have a motion to do a culvert on a road? I missed part of what you
Yes,
said.
to replace a covet. Mr. Baggett has an email in relation to that already, but yes, to replace a covet at the intersection of Williams and Mobley.
Got a motion on that, is that second? Second by Supervisor Montgomery. All those in favor, let it be known by the public voting sign. Motion passes unanimously.
And just a little denim to that, is that with a larger covet, because that intersection cannot take the amount of water flow.
Is that a
that's
culvert or a
coming.
cross drain though?
That's a covet. Covet, yes.
Anything else for the road man? If not, let's get a motion second to accept this report. Well, first of all, Mr. Bagg, you have anything for us? Any reports on anything that you need to report to us? Give us an update on.
I would like to request that the county administrator be given the authority to look into time clocks for the shops and see if it's feasible.
I move we accept the road manager's request.
Second.
Well, can I just say one more thing? A time clock, somebody else could punch the clock for the time clock. So we need to look at the different options of that. I mean, if this is for other places where there's not, if you're worried about satellite shops or something like that, you know, somebody easily can punch somebody else's
Yeah.
card for them. So I think that if that's what you're looking into, the reason you're looking into that, you need to make sure that there are ones where you do fingerprints
Yeah, you can meet in the morning.
or
Yeah,
facial.
Really?
Cameras, they got them all.
You meet at,
Even on the phone.
There's a guy that,
One location.
I know he's got the clock, but he's got a camera by the clock.
They got them all.
But,
They got all.
like
They
she
got
say, that
cameras
would be
in the
better.
clocks. If you want to look at that.
Yeah.
Codes on the back of that. So we got a motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Williams. Any more discussion on that issue?
No, I just think we need to make sure that we're just not getting the basic time clock, if that's the purpose of it.
Sounds good. All those in favor, let me know by the vote vote sign. Motion passed unanimous. Anything else, Mr. Bagley?
So I'd like to thank Attorney Roberts and Mr. Baggett for following up on the AT&T situation, getting them to remove their lines off Theodis Road. And now we're able to finish that project that we were working on.
Yeah,
I
we've got,
believe.
we've shaped it up and everything.
Yeah. Thank you for your correspondence in regards to that.
Yes, sir.
I would just like to commend our road manager for Thanksgiving dinner that you gave your road department. Everything was good. I think everybody enjoyed it.
We needed a motion to accept the road manager's report.
Motion.
Motion by Supervisor McDermott, second by Supervisor Howard. Are there any questions concerning the motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the first voting sign. Motion passed unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Bagley. You have a great day. All right, moving along to the next item. Ms. Livingston, any kind of business from your perspective?
Just that we didn't have a CD for the month of November, and the funds remain at Citizens.
Acknowledge no CD purchase month until November, and the funds remain in the same location. Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Williams. Are there any questions concerning the motion? All those in favor, make it be known by the public voting sign. Motion passed unanimous. Mr. Pritchard, do you have, are you on the, is he on the agenda? Do you have anything you want to come before the board this time? Come on up and give us a little update on Poorhouse Road, Longview Road, or any other roads you want to update us on at this time.
Work is ongoing on Longview Road, primarily just clearing and grubbing some basic drainage things. Erosion control, Phillips plans to hit this thing wide open in early spring, so we look for good progress on that. Blackjack, we've recombined the project, if you will. That's been reviewed by state aid, and that job is sitting ready to bid, contingent on these last couple of utility agreements. Attorney Latimer sent the utilities basically a sign it, move it, or lose it letter, so we're waiting response on that. So hopefully we'll bid Blackjack early in the first of the year type of thing. Poorhouse Road, we've got an issue with our fog seal. Weather's got us on that, so we're really not going to be able to address that till we get weather conducive to repairing that work. You have in your packet a couple of utility agreements. One of those is for work on Blackjack Road. I'll preempt the question that Emily asked me. We have sent them the plans for the new roadway, so this utility agreement for Blackjack would locate these utilities outside the work limits of our new. They won't conflict with what we're doing next time. Okay.
Are they started moving the utilities they needed to on Longview last time when I went down there?
Yeah.
Just the guys said that was a little
Yeah.
slow getting
Four
started.
counties working in there, AT&T's working in there. We had a little back and forth with the city of Starkville, which had assumed Bluefield Water, and they're moving their stuff now, so I think we've got that all under control.
So they are the lines, the water lines.
Some have been moved and some have not.
You mentioned on Blackjack Road about the utilities. We were still having an issue about whether or not the utility companies were gonna pay to have their utilities moved. Did we ever get that settled yet?
That has been settled.
Okay. So-
And we are not paying for utility relocations that are in our existing right-of-way now.
Correct. Okay.
Now, if our work had addressed a utility that was outside our right-of-way now, we would have to compensate them for that. But we're not paying for utility relocations for utilities that are in our current right-of-way.
Okay.
Okay? And that come down from state aid and Harry Lee James, and I think maybe an attorney general opinion too.
Keep in mind, we didn't lease them or rent them or anything else. They're doing that at the will and pleasure of this community, this county. So the way to think of that is that they were not, they were doing what they were doing on our lines without any, they didn't pay to do it. Other than what they.
Right.
Did we, the people that got that stuff on their car, that after that, did we get that handled?
I think so, Miss Emily.
One lady we did, and haven't heard anything from anybody else.
Yeah,
Okay.
what we had told Miss Emily was if she would, just to keep a receipt on that. We still have retainage on Cook and what have you, and we can
So she's
reimburse the
with that and
county
taking care of
for what he had
things.
in there.
We did.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
But
Was it on Cook or was it on?
It was on Poorhouse.
it was Cook Construction on Poorhouse Road.
Oh, I thought you were referring to the one on Chapel Hill.
Chapel Hill and the lady
No,
with the
that
truck.
was-
That's the damage.
Concrete.
that
Soil
was-
cement.
Chapel Hill was,
That was another construction.
that was a
company, too.
different, yeah, and that was a different, this was that
Understand.
black stuff that they came back and they didn't tell anybody they were doing
Fog
it.
seal.
The fog seal, and they didn't close the road. They had just had a car follow along behind and none of us knew. And so some people drove through there, especially those people with light vehicles, and they have polka dots all over there, black polka dots on
So
them.
Chapel Hill wasn't here or something.
I called and told the gentleman that we were holding payment. He chewed me up one side and down the other, and gave me his secretary's number, and I called her, and she's supposed to be in touch with their insurance and call me back, but she has not reached back out to me.
That's for Chapel Hill.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But now,
Couple
Cook,
other little-
Cook was not the one that
I
sprayed.
know, we'll talk.
Well, I'm just saying, he said Cook Construction, but Cook was not actually the one that, was
That's,
spraying. It was a subcontractor, so I don't want there to be some negativity about that because it was just a subcontractor that came in. It wasn't actually Cook Construction that did that.
That's working on. Two other things, and one, supervisor trainer, if you remember a year ago about this time, there was some paving went on out in the Hickory Grove area, that little subdivision there. Their 1-year warranty period is up. They have asked if we would look at those roads and get them accepted by the county. If you'd like, I can do that, or if you want to ride through.
I prefer you do it.
Okay.
They look good from what I've seen. I know what you're talking about.
I'll make a trip through there and look and make a
Report back.
recommendation to the board about accepting those, but their warranty period is up in December, I believe.
Sounds good.
Yeah, well, just an observation, Attorney Roberts, should we be concerned more about contacting that bonding company rather than contacting the company itself? Should we have communication with that bonding company? That's who really gonna make the decision
I
as to
think we're
whether or
gonna
not
have to start
something's
with
gonna
the
be
company
done.
first, because they've got to turn it over to them. They'll turn it over to their bonding company at
But
that
they-
point if it turns into.
Right, but what I'm
I
saying
thought
is
the
when we
bond
get,
was for them not performing, and their insurance certificates that they have to provide to us is for any damage.
The
Their
the
liability
bonding
would be
company
totally
is just
different.
like an insurance.
right, that's, yeah.
They're not performing on time.
But I guess when we get bogged down, should there be any communication with the bonding company then?
If they have no responsibility, keep in mind that bonding company is going to be only contracted to do what they bonded for. So
Right.
if this is outside that parameter, there's not going to be any reason to talk to the bonding company. It's going to be the actual company that has to come out of pocket. Now, trust me, if they think that they need to use that bonding and they have like contracted to handle this sort of thing, they will hand it over to them if that's the case. But I've got a feeling that this is going to be outside of that purview.
I was just wondering whether or not we had enough communication with them to know whether or not they have enough bonding and that bonding company will cover that.
Yes, sir.
Do we know that?
I don't.
We don't know.
I don't know that we know that from what their contract says between them. I can tell you, I don't know for certain.
We have
can check.
copies, we have copies of the bonds. We secure
We can
two,
check them out.
we have
Yeah, I
a
think
performance bond and a payment
that's
bond.
that's
Yes,
what I
sir.
was kind of encouraging you to do.
Yes, sir.
Is to see whether or not they have bond adequate enough.
Yes, sir.
To be able to handle these situations.
With y'all's permission, I'll get with Mr. Pritchard and we'll look at it.
We have those.
But we, I mean, there's, whenever we let a contract, there's a certain amount of bond that we require that each company has.
Right.
I mean, if, you know, if that doesn't cover everything, that's all that we require for them to have in order to receive the contract. But just to be clear, when we contract with the company, just for example, we contract with company A, then they subcontract with company C. We're not obligated to go to company C. We're looking at company A.
Correct.
Because they are the ones that brought in this subcontractor.
Yeah.
So it's not our responsibility to go after the subcontractor. We go after the main contractor who subbed, and then it's up to them to go after that subcontractor. So we shouldn't be, you know, we should look at who we
hire.
get right.
Doing business.
Well, you just had a good example, and Supervisor Miller's absolutely correct. Cams and Stone's the one that went in and inadvertently did the fog seal, but we're dealing with Cook Construction,
Right.
who is the general contractor.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right.
One last comment. A couple of weeks ago or so, I forwarded Emily, I believe, a projected status of funds for state aid coming up for next year. In developing your next 4-year road program or your thoughts, I'd encourage you to take a look at that to see what kind of money that you may be looking at state aid. As I interpret what's coming, not going to be much we can do if we split it up multiple ways. And I'd encourage you to be thinking about, you know, how you might best spend your state aid funds in the county.
Can,
Glad I remember the balance one.
I'll resend it to you, but Harry Lee James, it's in a projection for what we think is coming.
can we go ahead and talk about the email too, about the intersection of Poorhouse and Old 25? while you're here?
Sure. You want me to bring?
I do want you to bring it up.
We've been working with Mark Thomas with the MDOT for quite some time, and if you'll remember back in the early fall, they took some traffic counts out there at the intersection of Poorhouse and South Montgomery. And they are Poorhouse and Old 25. But those counts, they felt like were in error. They took a new set of traffic counts. They've run all their warrants. A warrant in their mind is say, does it need a signal? Does it need this or that? Their analysis shows that they would like to do a 4-way stop condition. And they can assist with that because that's what their analysis says is required. And he would talk about advanced flashing signs, you know, about everything that you could do to make that intersection, and work with us through the process of acclimating the public to this new condition. I mean, they do this all the time. So, you know, it's not like everybody wake up one morning and there'll be a big, you know, 4-way there. He has mentioned a roundabout on occasion. I have told him I didn't feel like we were ready for a roundabout. And we discussed a signal. And Supervisor Williams had asked me to be sure that we investigated a signal. They can't participate in a signal because their data says it's not required. Okay? Now, if the county wanted to install a signal in and of its own, like we did at South Montgomery, which was an HRR, high-risk rural roadway deal under state aid, they could pursue that route. So it's kind of like MDOT would help us with a 4-way, help us with that expense. If the county wants to go to a signal type option, it'll pretty much be at the county's expense to do it.
So they're saying that make sure I got my head wrapped around. They're saying that a 4-way stop may be adequate for that section.
Their analysis says that a 4-way stop should be adequate.
But it also said that they're going to do the flashing lights and stuff before you get there, which is something we do not have now.
Right.
You know, those things that say slow down, and that they'll help pay for all of that. And didn't it talk about lighting the
Yeah,
intersection?
I mean, they're talking
They
about
also,
doing.
you know, it's very dark at night.
Very.
And so it talked about lighting the intersection too, and these are all things they would help us pay for.
That whole area up through there, y'all, is, if you're coming off of Poorhouse Road, I mean, I grew up in Longview and I go down that road all the time. It's very confusing. The reason we've had some wrecks over there, I really do believe, is because it's a little confusing because you're going across a 4-lane, and there was an old road bed in one spot, so I think there's that lighting would be, I'm worried that somebody's gonna get really hurt over there, so that's the reason I say that is that.
Well, Old
we
25,
definitely
we've
need to
had
look at it.
fatalities. And I asked Mark straight
Like
up.
the stoplight would be more suitable, is that what you, if,
I think a stoplight, I think we need to look at it strongly, and maybe we need to do a little bit more, but I think y'all's gut instinct has always been that a stoplight is more
yeah.
preferable.
Well,
Well, I tell you what is happening there is that people are stopping. Stopping doesn't seem to be the problem, but when someone stop over here and someone stop over here on Poorhouse and Longview, they confused as to who
Such a
is
wide
gonna,
spot.
who's
Who has
gonna
the right
go.
of way.
Who's gonna go, so we just sitting there waiting and see, is this person gonna tell you to go, or you gonna tell them to go?
And that's gonna get nothing but worse whenever that's paved up
Well,
there.
we're not talking, again, we're not talking 25 4-lane and Longview. We're talking old 25.
Old 25
Old
and
25.
Poorhouse.
Which is
Old
busy.
25.
But that's
and
busy, though.
Poorhouse
That needs
Road.
to be looked at too, y'all.
But that one is busy.
Okay.
You know, I feel a little different than most people about a roundabout. A roundabout, to me, seems to work when you don't have a traffic light on each end of it that stops the traffic, and then you get your roundabout clogged. But if you got, when you go in the roundabout, and if you don't have a traffic light to stop you, all you do is go around the circle, and you keep, that roundabout just keep feeding you.
He's got part of the
It
road.
keeps processing.
It keeps processing. Where you get in trouble out there behind Mississippi State, you got stoplights on each side of that roundabout. So when you get a lot of traffic and the light is on red on this end and the light's red on this end, well, a roundabout's no good. But if you got continuous traffic, roundabout
Let the roundabout just do the
work.
whole thing.
It slows traffic down to where you gotta slow down to enter the roundabout and then exit out and keep going. Where we get in trouble, because I've traveled at night. It's just, for some reason, you're up on old 25 before you know it. When you're on Poorhouse traveling west, you're right there at old 25 before you realize you're there. And same thing with when you come into the bypass. You know, there's been some things done there to let you know, look, upcoming stop. But to me, you know, I just feel differently about a roundabout that doesn't have stop signals on each end of it.
Well, let me interject. The roundabout that y'all know here is not a good example.
Right. You go in big cities where there's good
There
roundabouts.
there are some very good examples of roundabout. Lafayette County, Oxford uses them extensively right now. The one's been revised at the airport in Jackson and from what it used to be. So they can be made to function and function well.
How would it handle the traffic, though, after your ball games when people are coming out, in your opinion? That'd be the only, and it would be on that, be it old 25, it's still on the highway.
Yeah, you would probably man it like you do any individual
They man it
signal
now,
in the
yeah.
county. You would man that and have
That
a through
intersection.
movement for somebody for a fixed amount of time and move.
Yeah, because traffic light, to me, even with big traffic after a game, at some point, that traffic light's gonna stop and back traffic all the way up both ways, and then it's gonna let go, and then it'll stop. Whereas the roundabout, if you man it like you do, you know, even when you have big traffic and you have somebody waving cars on through, even with the light on red, you still got a better flow. That's just my opinion.
And-
I ain't as down on roundabouts as most people are.
And their analysis, understand too, they're not just counting cars. And they are looking at accident data too. They're looking at the degree of the
Yeah, the
accidents.
ma-
All
majority
these
of
things
those
get,
accidents have happened during the day, it
Yeah.
seems like.
all these things get weighted in to a score. Basically, that's what they call their warrant. But their warrant right now is for a four-way stop.
And they did also do the traffic count during the football games. If I don't know if y'all noticed the cameras being up there in the.
During the LSU.
They did.
So that's some food for thought. I need, at some point I need to report back to Mark and kind of give him a little direction on what the county would like for them to do or not to do.
Well,
How much of it will they fund?
Haven't asked. He just said that they can't participate in a signal because their analysis says the signal's not warranted.
We put the signal up on Montgomery and Courthouse. That was grant money that we got through.
Yeah.
That was an HRR or high-risk rural roadway project that Jack Jackson helped us secure through state aid, is what that was. Okay?
Those
go
funds are
ahead.
not available for this project.
I don't know that there are even any HRR funds out there right now. The changes in our bridge inspection has played havoc with our funding.
I would like to see the county go ahead and light the intersection because I think we can do that very economically for county until we do whatever we're going to do. I ultimately think a stoplight needs to be there. But Supervisor Williams or everybody, but his opinion too. But I think
Yeah.
ultimately we need a stoplight there, other than just a four-way stop. However, I'm glad for you to look at the cost, how much they would pay on it, and see what we want to do. But I think with as many accidents that we have, and it's not. But I would like to go ahead. We mentioned this one time before. Just to, I think we could go ahead and light the intersection, which would be helpful now, especially because it's getting dark so early. That's something that we go ahead and look at doing. If Miss Emily, before maybe the next board meeting, can we see what it would cost to put some lights up on that intersection?
I would say that if we pursue that, we need to be in the loop a little bit because whether you roundabout or four-way or all may dictate where these lights need to be. I'd hate to put them up in the wrong spot and have to move them.
Just look at the whole of the project.
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah.
gonna do? You know what I mean? What
Several different.
little decisions.
I mean, I'd hate to go out there next week
Oh, I
and put up
understand.
lights and have to move them.
But that was part of the recommendation, was to light the intersection
Right.
too.
And you think they may help us with the lighting because that was in their findings, that the lighting
No
was
one has,
necessary. If we're through with that discussion, I've got same thing on 182 and Self Creek Road and 182 and County Line Road. Right there've been some wrecks. Can we get DOT to?
I can ask you, I can
Get
ask them to
Mark.
evaluate those too.
Can we evaluate that one just right there where, where 5D, where Kenny Dean's is
We
at
share
right
that.
there?
You wanna see
182
North
and
Forward?
Self Creek.
Yes,
do too.
182 and Self Creek. If you were going out of town, Self Creek's to your left, County Lake's to the right.
Yeah.
But there've been 3 wrecks there.
Saving lives.
I know.
If you will, remind me and I'll send Mark an email and see if I'm started on those two.
Four-way's just
Okay.
gonna be.
Confusing.
That'll work.
All right.
I've got one question while we've got you.
It's a good thing I wasn't on the agenda.
And you and I may need to get together on this. We need to come up between the two of us from a political standpoint of the dam area out there on County Lake. I've talked with our lobbying group, and I think their thought process is that they would like us to try to make an ask on the state level, on the federal level, and see what we can possibly, what we're willing to put on a county level to put up as far as matching. But their thought process was that this was an $8 to $10 million
That's correct.
project, and I know I'm giving a pretty big latitude here as far as what we're talking about here. Is that a good estimate? Is the 8?
We have a formal estimate out for construction cost and engineering and right-of-way acquisition and all those things. I don't know the exact number.
I thought it was like 8 million.
It's a little over $8 million is what it is. And kudos to Kristen. She
Yeah,
has
I was
been,
gonna say,
she's been riding this horse pretty hard and investigating all avenues. Had an excellent meeting with the senator's office. And, you know, we're chasing this thing as hard as we can, but nobody seems to have that pool of money right now.
We had a dead end.
Well, it sounded like when I talked to.
Kristen, can you come into this conversation a little bit? Because we've got a meeting coming up on the
December the
10th.
10th.
Yeah. Do you want to talk
And
about
that's
that a
with
little
the
bit?
USDA, the new director, to kind of lead us on what state money is available. Last week, did you want me to?
Yeah.
Last week, I met with the grant writers that wrote the city's big build grant. And they put in, or they can put in 5 applications, all 5 grants that we were looking at. 2 of them are big federal grants. They are competitive. I think they're, trying to remember the numbers now, I should have brought that reference with me. What, 150 million, I think, was one, and I forget what they were, but it's 2 federal competitive grants. They're big grants, but they're due by January 31st. So for us to use this company, we would have to do an RFP to get it in pretty quick, because like I said, the application is due on the 31st. And they want it in 72 hours before the deadline to review it.
Plus, talk about maybe some of the things that might help, letters from the board. And,
Yeah, we'll have to have
for
letters
some
from
other
everybody under the
things.
sun that we know of, that people from that area, and I think we won't have a problem with the representatives, everybody we've talked to, from all boards, anybody that would have a stake in County Lake at all. There is a process to get it approved. They didn't give me an amount that this company would charge. They do these grants pretty regular, so they're familiar with the federal process already. I looked at that grant, it was probably 84 pages of list of things that you have to have, but they're familiar with it, they do it all the time. So with their package, I thought I would have it by today, but I haven't got it yet, to see what, in writing, everything that they would do. But there was 5 grants that they'll submit applications for with their price. The price, I don't know yet, I know it's hourly. He said it would either be hourly plus and a commission if the grant was awarded.
So
But
no charge if we do not receive the
we
grant?
would still have the administrative costs, yes, you would still have the hourly. So you can either do it just hourly or an hourly plus a percentage of the grant.
Is this a state grant that they're referring to, or is this the federal grant?
This is 2 federal grants. One of them is a state that we talked about that would come out in March. And that's one that we met with in Jackson and talked about with Whitaker's office. But it's not, the application doesn't even open until March or April. But how that's normally been approved was for the planning of, not the construction of. So, but if we get in on the planning, then we most likely could get in on the construction after that, which, you know, Clyde's done most of the planning already. So that part, and that's what helps us on this company these guys were from Tennessee that come and met, and that's what helped them decide that they wanted to do, because Clyde's already done all the engineering work. So we won't get charged for that.
Basically, that one would let us get plans together, bid documents together, have a project sitting on the shelf. So if the next round of funding came through for construction, they would be there to be ready, we could advertise. One of the challenges that we've had in reviewing these, almost all these grants use some form of scoring system. And I'm not saying anything that Marlell and Kristen hadn't heard, but one of the key parts of their scoring system is whether or not the county has adopted a building code, international building code, which we have not. And I'm not advocating that one way or the other, but on these grant applications, we sort of start off behind the 8 ball for not having those points going in.
I think it was a 500-point scale on both of those federal grants. It's a flood management or flood mitigation and a pre-disaster mitigation grant. Both of those start on or have a 500-point scale. 100 points is building codes.
So again, we start off at 400. And
Yep.
But that's, after talking to him, another thing that would help us, I think, is because it's not just something we want to do. This is a life safety issue for everybody traveling that road. The buses that travel twice a day. So I think that's where we would have a leg up on that side, because it's a life safety issue. And honestly, if it happened today, if something tragic happened, somebody's gonna find the money to fix it.
Yeah, the money would be
So
there.
it's just doing something before it gets done.
And we've been so forward as just to ask that question. You know, what happened if we just had to go out there and shut the thing down? So,
So in other words, I mean, we're working on it. We're not gonna nail ourselves down to any specific thing yet until we, continue with some meetings, more research, but, at some point, we're gonna have to decide which way we wanna go, with this deal, so it's kind of where we're at.
I think we've got the support for it. I mean, I think it's on everybody's mind now with as many people as we've reached out to in Jackson and everywhere, so I don't think the letters would be a problem to get.
Good deal.
I'd like to, Mr. President, I'd like to back up just for a few minutes on the Poe House old 25 situation. The state said that they would participate, but they didn't say at what rate they would participate, I don't believe. Whether they participate at a 25, 75, or 50-50.
That's correct. We don't have any definition as to what they.
They didn't define participation. And their participation, and keep in mind with everything they're gonna do, they're gonna light up the area, participation, they're gonna put warning signs beforehand, and they're gonna put four-way stops up. I'm sure those four-way stops will be blinking four-way stop.
They would be, as Mark described it, they would be oversized signs, like the great big stop sign that you
Right.
see lit,
And that's what I'm getting at now, is that their participation might not be at the same rate as what it would cost to put a stoplight there. We don't have a cost analysis of neither one of those projects as to whether or not we would go with a four-way stop and all other things they recommended, or whether we would go with a stoplight. Look at the cost analysis of both, and I think that'll help us make a better decision as to whether or not we're really saving money and saving lives. And saving lives is the most important thing, because there's a lot of accidents that's taking place at that location. And I'm talking about big trucks are hitting passenger vehicles at that location. So we need to really take a look at this and do a cost analysis and see where we're going and how much it's gonna cost both ways.
Since that's a state aid road, they would have to approve for us to put up a stoplight.
Yeah.
Everything on.
The DOT. Question on that 182 in Self Creek. Do we need to have a board order for you to ask?
Probably wouldn't hurt. I mean,
But I'm saying in that board order, would we need to what, to do a traffic count, to do
No, just authorize me to inquire with
with
DOT.
DOT?
Investigate that intersection.
If it's okay with y'all, I'm gonna make a motion for that.
Second.
Got a motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard. Are there any questions concerning the motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the clerk voting sign. Motion passes unanimously.
And what road was it, 182?
182 West and Self Creek and County Line. So County Line and Self Creek.
Could we have the information on Poorhouse and on 25 by next meeting? Would that
We're
be
talking
possible?
about asking the state of Mississippi to get something done in the holidays, so I can't say for sure. I'll send my email today and see.
Any more questions, Mr. Pritchard? If not, we certainly appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
all
for
do
your
the
time.
county. Thank you, sir. Moving along to the next item. County Business Administration. Payroll changes in the past. Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard. Are there any questions concerning the motion?
I had one individuals retired and then they came back. This is a 2-day retirement and then back to work. Oh, I didn't understand that. I'm gonna vote in approval, but I just didn't understand this situation with the tax collector's office. I didn't understand
Which
that.
what are you talking about now?
I just didn't understand it. I mean,
Understand? That's what I got, and she was retired for a couple, well, she resigned. She did not retire with the retirement system. She didn't have enough time in. But she resigned and was gonna work part-time, and now she's gonna come back full-time.
All those in favor, let it be known by the clerk voting sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Utility right-of-way request, one for John I. Road and one for Blackjack Road. Gun eye is for bail pass, and blackjack is for tail pass.
Motion for approval.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Howard. Are there any questions concerning the motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the proper voting sign. Motion passes unanimous.
We have got several school buses running around. A few of these are already school buses running around, and they're just wanting to make sure we continue them. And they're copies in the township, Christy Shell on Pike Road, Michael Gibson on Oak Drive, Kathleen Gibson on Errol Road, Melvin Jordan on County Lake Road.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Howard. Are there any questions concerning that motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the proper voting sign. Motion passes unanimous.
Got a budget amendment for the road department, transferring money out of, Hoffman and Fielder into record service for $2,000.
Do we need to approve? Do we need some more?
I just want to say that that's a little concerning too, because that's the same employee that we had to do a, what was it, last time?
There's the one that went and got 2 or 3 loads of material from the
That we didn't have a
wrong-
purchase order for.
from the wrong vendor.
I'm gonna vote no on that one.
But this is just a budget amendment to move money from the dirt, well, I said dirt fund.
Yeah, to pay for the record bill where we had to,
Yeah, but
run off the road. He was cleaning his truck and ran off the road out on Hickory Grove Road
He was
a few weeks ago.
Cleaning his truck while he was going down the road? How can you be cleaning your truck right down the road?
But I guess we gotta,
We've already.
if we don't
increased the
transfer,
revenue.
we voting to transfer the funds, so if
Right.
we don't transfer them there from there, we gotta transfer them somewhere, or don't pay the bill, the bill got.
Bill's already been paid. Well, the invoice has been processed.
I'd like a little more, I mean, I don't have a problem doing the swapping the money around, but I would like to hear a little more from our road manager when he's back next meeting, or even in January, as to what exactly happened here. So,
All right, this is money to transfer from what, I'm sorry.
It's coming from Hopkins and Fielder into record service. That's just the one line item.
transfer
that's
it from,
$2,000 record bill.
1850.
What have we been paying the record bills out of, just miscellaneous?
No, with my record bills,
That
out of
was-
record service, we just haven't had my money set up in this line
Oh,
item.
What's the board's pleasure on this particular matter?
I move we pay it.
Motion by Supervisor Howard, the second by Supervisor Williams. Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the vote sign. All those opposed, same sign.
Not because mine's for the logistics behind it. so-
Recusal or opposed?
Refuse.
Okay. Motion passes 4-0 with 1 recusal.
Copier rental. The pension service is one upgrade your copier. It's 48 month lease at $146.22 a month.
So move.
Motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Montgomery. Are there any questions concerning the motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the proper voting sign. Motion passes then.
Credit card policy for the month is $136.76.
Motion for approval.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Williams. Are there any questions concerning the motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the proper voting sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Claim docket claims on 659 is 1074 in the amount of $727,021.61.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard. Are there any questions concerning the motion? All those in favor, let it be known by the proper voting sign. All those opposed, same sign. Recused. All right, motion passes 4-0 with 1 recusal. Attorney Robinson, do you have anything you run for the board?
Yes, sir.
Supervisor Miller, you have anything additional? Supervisor Williams, anything I didn't scratch?
No, don't.
Supervisor Howard, man, district.
I do, it's not pertaining to my district specifically, but I do have I think a little discussion needs to take place about our fire coordinator position. I've kind of heard through the rumblings and through the grapevine that some of our fire chiefs has gotten together and interviewing applicants for the new for the fire coordinator position. First of all, I think it's a board. I think the board is the one that's required to do that, and the board responsibility. Second of all, I don't think we have a letter of resignation from our current fire coordinator, so therefore, I don't even see how that's taking place. But I think we need to let our fire chiefs know that that is a board responsibility and not a fire chief responsibility. And I think when and if we receive a letter of resignation from our current fire coordinator, that we need to handle this position like we handle every other position, and that's put out for applications and set interview dates and go through the same process that we do with all other positions. That's my recommendation.
So can we agree to that, or do we need to do something official, or do we just need to wait until that time comes before we deal with that?
I think we just wait until we get a letter of resignation in hand, then we move forward to.
Well, I mean, as far as the process, I think the process we've had in the past has worked fine. So I would say I would support going the same process.
Well, he has said that he has requested not to be reappointed, so I guess you have a letter to that effect that's saying that he requests not to be reappointed.
I have a letter that he sent me. I have discussed it with him. He came to see me about it. He sent me emailed me a copy of a letter this morning. However, he had a doctor's appointment and a dentist appointment, and he is going to deliver a signed copy this week.
Okay. Once we receive that copy, then we move forward with our next process, with the process.
All right, so let's just say between now and our next meeting, he does give us that letter. Do we want to, in other words, here's what I'm looking at, no matter who goes in there, I'm looking at the time frame. In other words, our first January meeting, everyone gets reappointed, we reappoint these positions, and he's one of them. Are we going to be able to put someone in that position then, or if we don't,
You have 30 days from when his
30 days.
appointment expires to put someone in there.
Okay, well then that answers my question. In other words, just because January the 6th we don't have someone, then she's saying we got 30 days. Okay.
Can we then, attorney, contingent upon receiving his letter of resignation, can we go ahead now and put some things in place to go ahead and advertise upon whenever Ms. Emily receives his letter?
Yes,
then
sir.
we put some advertisement in the paper, and we advertise for how long. And in order to get this done 30 days after he resigned, we need to go ahead and get some advertisement to accept applications, close date for applications, then set up some interviews. And we need to do this all within.
Not just for his, you can do this, I'm using me for this example, I want this job, so before I say this, you can do it for my position, you can do it for his position. We all work for the will and pleasure of this board. So if you decide that you want to put it out for an advertisement, you can do that at any time, assuming that you get the 30-day, we can get it done within that 30-day period of plugging everything in.
Okay.
So, yes, sir.
Well, my motion, Ms. Emily.
This position is a unique position. It has not been treated as an employee of the county. It is a contract position.
But does he still work at the will and pleasure of the board?
He works at the will and pleasure of the board, but it's not a salary position. He gets $600 a month contract rate, which is paid from the volunteer fire department's general fund budget. So, are we going to fill the position that same way, or are we looking at doing other things and so on.
It might be a perfect time to review this position too, to see what it's developed into since, because Kurt has been there for,
It has specific guidelines that's set by the insurance department as to what the responsibilities and duties are for it. That's what
So it may have turned into something bigger than, or, I don't know, I'm not putting words.
It is
It's
bigger.
just like-
it is, it's whatever responsibilities Kurt has, it's still gonna be the same responsibilities, and it's the responsibilities set out by the insurance, Department of
I see what you're
Insurance.
saying.
Can this be a person that is, I say salaried like the other positions? Is this within our realm of authority, or is it not?
I think you could make it a full-time salary position or a part-time salary. That is where
Well,
I
the
was
reason-
going with this. How are we gonna treat it?
yeah. And I also think while we're looking at that one, we've got the fire training officer's position that we need to kind of look at too, while we're looking at both of them.
Actually, the fire coordinator, I think, is the fire training officer.
So they are one and of the
I
same.
believe so. Now,
But at the present time, we're not treating it that way.
that is correct.
Right.
Because it's not a position that pays enough for Mr. Rosenbaum to carry all that on himself.
Well, we all know Kirk did it because he just outright
likes
loved
it.
it. No, he loves it. It is him. It is.
So, my point
Woven
is
into him.
we kind of, need, oh, I think I will email y'all the job descriptions and
Please.
responsibilities.
Okay.
And I had earlier, and I'll send it to y'all again, and then we can decide which way to go with this.
Okay, all right, good deal. That way we need, because if we're gonna change it, we need to have specific responsibilities and things in place.
It does.
Before we-
Specific responsibilities.
Might be only fair to the applicants.
Absolutely.
I mean, what are we getting into?
Right. And Rob, could we get an extension on this? Because 30 days is, if we wanna look at this position and maybe do something different
I
with
think,
it.
I think the reality is that y'all are looking at this long-term. So I don't think that anybody's gonna come down here and simple answer is yes, I can make a couple of phone calls and make certain they understand what we're doing. I can call the insurance.
What you can do is get Kurt to stay a month or so beyond.
Yeah.
Okay,
Until it's
Okay.
filled.
okay,
He
Fill
wouldn't
that
have any
spot,
problem
then-
with it.
okay,
Yes,
Yeah.
because you do have, you got to have it within that 30 days.
okay, good
And all
deal.
your insurance ratings and
Make
everything.
two phone calls.
You want this
I
all
think that's
around
what we
this.
do then, ask him to stay, so we can have time to look at this position and maybe if we decide we wanna do something different with it, go from there.
And, I'll send y'all the information I have, and y'all let me know which way to proceed.
Okay.
So the way we're looking at it now, in the event that Mr. Rosenhan does say he is going to leave and we get that letter, then you'll advertise.
We don't have to advertise, so I will advertise how y'all want me to advertise, whatever your request is. If you want it advertised, what you want in the advertisement, if you want to include salary, if you don't want to include salary, if you want to do it as a full-time or part-time salary position with benefits, or continue it as a contractual position, it's all up to this board.
Okay, first of all, ask him if he would be willing to stay until we have time to review the position and decide if we want to keep it the same or do something different, then we can go. After, you're gonna send us what you got on the
Yes,
position, so.
yes, and I'll also
Okay.
send you a copy of his letter I received from him this morning, however, it's not signed. but
Okay.
it's on his email.
Can you put that in my box, a copy of his description, the description in my
Okay.
box too?
I can.
That's all I have.
Oh, and I also have to talk to the state insurance coordinator.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Anything from District 1, Supervisor Mondo?
Good.
All right, well, seeing that brings to the conclusion of my meeting.
Well, I do have one thing, and that's for all of us, and I've been going up and down the road some on our garbage numbers on that list, so I'm about 3/4 of the way through with mine, so. Was that next meeting that will,
Yeah, the meeting, upcoming meeting in this month is when they'll vote to enact the new numbers. Start to charge our county for that.
and I did look back too, in other words,
Is it going out on the?
No, they haven't sent out a letter.
years ago, see how much more detailed that is right there? Or every road
Sure was.
is more detailed.
And that's what they did. I got that's what they did.
So,
last time.
In other words, on the house count, the difference in what we got,
I put it in bonds.
Okay.
yeah, versus,
That's the last time they did it.
this is right here would put me at a lot more ease. In other words, we know on Morgantown Road, there's 16 livable houses. Tom Street has 7 houses, 1 that's non-livable, 1 church, 1 under construction. You know what I mean? So, instead of, there's 1,800 houses between Artesia Road and Highway 182. So just a better count like that. In other words, if we're paying the bill, if I were getting someone to write me a check when I hand them an invoice, it would be, especially something this size, it'd be a lot more detailed than what we got. And,
Will y'all bring it up at the next garbage meeting too? At Massey's Rental Houses on D&D Lane off Longview. He has they have a front end, he pays for a front end dumpster. And he has really nice gravel, like a really nice gravel drive where they can drive straight in. But they have gotten that truck off and there are ruts this deep. He made me go take pictures of it. I'll forward them to you. But he just wants he said he will fix them this time. But he put the big rock in there. There's no reason for the drivers to ever get off of the road. And they're causing really big ruts. And he just asked, could we please get that addressed? So can y'all address that to whoever the driver is?
What's the address?
Well, that's the Massey's Rental Houses. That's D&D Lane off of Longview Road. And he pays for a front end dumpster for all of those rental houses. And he has a really nice gravel, the big gravel. He built that. But beside that, there are just trenches where they're just not paying attention and they're backing off in the grass.
That's the truck with the front load.
The front loader.
there was one set of ruts, I don't know how they didn't get stuck when I saw it. I was like,
Oh, you saw it too?
Yeah.
I don't know how they did either.
Well, that brings us to a close. We need a motion, a second to stand adjourned to the third Monday at 5:30.
So moved.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Montgomery. Any questions on the motion?
Those rental houses.
All those in favor?
Oh, yeah.
Say recess.
Parade tonight. Is anybody riding?
I will.
Okay.
Unless
We
I'm the
pick
only
up
one.
What time we pick up the vehicle?
That's where we're gonna pick it up after lunch.
Okay, it'll be sitting.
I'll
Okay.
be there.
Good deal. All right.
I'm riding, I ain't driving.
I'll catch y'all between then and over here.
Okay.
One time me and Marvin